is the F&E podcast, and I am your host, Achille Page. So today we'll be going over two things today. We'll be going over capital budgeting. We'll do some capital budgeting, and we'll also go over cost accounting. All right, and cost accounting is pretty important, especially to business owners out there. So I do want to touch bases with them business owners and get them a little bit of what cost accounting is. But first, before we start our finance, we give our daily quote and our words of affirmation. So our quote of the day is: put blinders onto those things that conspire to hold you back, especially the ones in your own head. All right, that's the quote of the day. And now for our daily motivation. So let me touch bases on the little quote of the day first. It says, put blinders onto those things that conspire to hold you back, especially the ones in your own head. So, meaning, you know, you can be your own crutch sometimes, and that thought in the back of your head telling you can't, you have to sometimes just be blind to it. You have to ignore it because you can't. Um, all right, and our word of affirmation is: I've come to realize that the only people I want in my life are the ones who want me in theirs, even when I have nothing to offer them but myself. And that's big. That's big because a lot of us be looking for things to be handing out to us. You know, and handouts come out very rarely when we talking about what we expect from others. So, and before I start on finance, I'm gonna share it. Let people know. Let people know that we're here now. Try to get some viewers in here. You know, actually, before I get into this, I actually wanna talk about something because this past week, I actually lost my car. You know what I'm saying? And let the devil will try you. You know what I'm saying? He will try to ruin your peace and your happiness. But all in all, you know, those type of things can be replaced. So we're not gonna really too much dwell on, things that we can't control. But we will move on to things that we can control. And, I just want to let y'all know, just don't let you know things happen. Life happens. You know what I'm saying? So just don't let it take your peace. And RP to my Honda. We'll have a new vehicle soon. But that I just wanted to touch base on that. I'll probably talk a little bit more about that during the entertainment show. But I did want to let y'all know that things in life will happen to try to stop you from being great. So in this in this episode, this is episode 4 of the finance morning shows. Last week was kind of rough because we was having technical difficulties and things of that sort. This is the first week that we have everything set up to where everything is working. So, with that being said, let's get into a little bit of capital. Let's talk about capital. Um, well, if you remember from 2 episodes ago, I let you know that equity is a form of capital, or capital is a form of equity. Okay, so and if you don't remember what equity is the amount of what you own. Okay, so after you know deposits and credits. So I wanna what I wanna do is so management accounting and financial accounting. So when it comes to capital budgeting, um, management or managerial accounting or accountants use this more so often than others. Okay, so the primary users for financial accounting, it would be like your investors, your creditors, and your regulators. For managing for management accounting, it would be managers and other internal users. So, and other internal users would fall under consumers as well, because consumers are an internal users when it comes to products and things of that sort. So, and the primary purpose of both of these two types of accounting is to track users, basically consumers. So basically, every transaction has a debitor and a creditor, and 9 times out of 10, you are the debitor because you're spending your money. So, you know, when you go out and spend your capital, hold on, when you go out and spend your capital, it has to be tracked by the business so they know how well that they're doing. So this is basically this, and these are basic things that I'm sitting here talking about right now. And I'll let you know why we're going back basic again to dive deeper into more detail. But financial accountants uses they use this information for audits, and audits is big during tax season, and this is why again I wanted to talk about um, manage managerial accounting and financial accounting, because this tax season we had a few audits. Shoot, next tax season we'll probably have a few audits if people don't keep up with their receipts. And again, this is why I wanted to talk about management and financial accounting. So, as consumers, businesses know that you're less liable to keep up with information. So, the receipts that you use after you purchase, they know more than 9 times out of 10 you're gonna throw it away. Um, they don't throw theirs away. They keep theirs as long as it need to be kept. And I think in the scope of audits, I want to say it's 5 to 7 years, if I'm not mistaken. I have to do my check, but for financial records, I believe it's 5 to 7 years. But you can also have like an individual audit, meaning uh, accountants can audit you. Okay, so as primary users, it would be smart to start keeping your receipts. And I say this because I have a lot of customers during tax season. So really, I want this episode to kind of touch my tax clients so they'll be aware that this upcoming year that they'll need their receipts to maximize their returns. Okay. So and it all starts with capital budgeting. Okay, and that's what I started this episode talking about was capital budgeting. Um we're gonna touch bases on cost accounting too because cost accounting is kind of how you get to your capital budgeting. So for personal and individual tax returns or tax season, we all know that Donald Trump changed the tax bracket, so that's one thing to know about. Uh, Second thing to know about is that your refunds will be a little bit higher, some a little bit lower than others, depending on where you fall within these tax brackets. So, this is just for tax purposes. Please keep your receipts, okay? Because you're going to need them this upcoming year. Now, your capital spending. Your capital spending is how much you spend in a day, okay? Now, a lot of people keep track of this. Some people don't. Me, I do keep track of how much I spend daily because I like to know how much I waste a year on miscellaneous things that I don't need. And so that way the next year, when the next year comes, I can go ahead and cut those costs and save a little bit more. Again, this is why I said cost accounting and capital budgeting. Okay. So typically, typically week by week or day by day, we'll go out into the world. We'll go spend our capital or earn money um on things that we usually don't keep track of. A lot of the things that people should keep track of that a lot of people don't keep track of is gas because you're taxed on gas. Really, you're taxed on everything that you buy, depending on what state that you live in. But um, I'm gonna use gas because gas is a universal thing. If you can keep track of how much gas that you buy in a week, you can kind of forecast for how much money you need to put aside just for that purpose. Okay. And this is called um this is the budgeting part. So when we are able to keep track of these funds and our funds, then saving becomes a little bit more easier, helping us towards financial freedom. So a lot of people hire us accountants to keep track of these things. They'll what they'll do is, you know, they'll let you have access to their bank account and then, you kind of keep track of the funds that you see them spending on and month by month or week by week, depending on however you and your client has have it set up. Y'all go over the amount of things that you're spending and what you're spending these things on to try to, refrain from doing certain things to help you move forward in life. So what I do for myself and what I, tell a lot of my clients is you have to be able and willing to sacrifice something. And if you're not willing to sacrifice something, you're not you're not willing to get ahead. So, um me, I used to be I used to be a heavy. Let me see what was a uh what was let me see one thing that I used to spend money on to try to give you an example. To try to give you an example. I was infatuated with car stereo. So anytime like a new radio came out, I had to buy it and install it. Like the air horns for the cars when they came out, I had to install it. The letters on the windows, the the lights on the inside. Now, I just named about probably about 6 to 7 things that I spent my capital on that had no purpose. Now, of course, it was a satisfaction or an instant gratification for me. It made me happy in the sense of I finally had what I wanted on my cars, but in the sense of how would that make me more money? It was useless. It was useless. It wasn't like my car was in a car show. It wasn't like it was a exotic car that was being raced or anything like that. It was just something that made me happy. So, as I got older and I started getting new cars, that was one thing I sacrificed. I sacrificed the speakers, just everything. I rather keep the car factory the way it is before I modify it to my liking. And that's just because when you start to modify things, the cost and the value of your asset then reduces. It reduces. So depreciation and allocation, the, it reduces with modification. So the more that you modify things to your liking, the more you lose value. Now, we do have some creators where, they create things and it gains value because of the rarity of the item, because, there's only one like it. Uh, and, we have to remember that as well. But for the most part, you have to sacrifice something in order to get ahead. So let me see. Let me try. This ain't the right one. This why I'm on the wrong one. Where's my? Okay. So I just want to make sure that I'm not missing anything. And I usually have a script. I haven't had it written uh the day before. I didn't have my script written the day before. So really, we just going we free we free minded, which is okay because I told you I wanted the podcast to be authentic. So when we do become of something, you'll be like, oh, I remember when he started off his finance shows and he was, just free writing or free speaking off the top of his head. And that's a good thing too. Also, that this knowledge is instilled inside of me and not written off of paper. I do have notes, but I usually tell you the things that I could remember that's instrumental off the top of my head. So these the variations of cost behavior, okay? Cost drivers and cost behaviors, okay? Now these two things are very important. And I am going to read these off my notes because I want you to get the exact definition of each. Cost behaviors is assumed linear over some relevant range of activities are cost drivers. Okay. Cost behaviors that combine characteristics of both fixed and variable cost behaviors. Okay. So I want to, do y'all know what a cost driver is? A cost driver is something that drives consumers into buying a product. That's a cost driver, okay? A cost behavior is the type of person that is willing to buy that 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 object or product or service, okay? So and this is how money moves, okay? And if you're into creating businesses, you would want to know a lot about cost drivers and cost behaviors because that's going to be your demographic of consumers or customers that you're trying to target and get into your business. So for business owners, this is very instrumental. For consumers, this is also instrumental because you now know how businesses lock in onto just you. Have you ever been scrolling on um like your, I don't know if any people in the social media like that, but have you ever been scrolling on your timeline and you see something that you was just talking about? Like you probably was talking about the Cheesecake Factory. I know a lot of people know what that is. You probably talking cheese. You're talking about buying cheesecake, and you scrolling on your timeline, and then you see the Cheesecake Factory. That's called a cost driver. The cost driver is that advertisement that either overheard you or, you know, uh, nowadays technology track things that you either was talking about, things you searched, and things like that to bring up advertisements to your phone personally. You know what I'm saying? That's what these personalized advertisements is. But these are marketing strategies from businesses. Okay. This isn't this isn't, oh, like I was just talking about this and it just so happened to pop up. No, your phone, and it's crazy, but your phone actually can hear and track the things that's around you. So, or the things that you search rather, not the things around you. I apologize about that, but the things that you search, and what what it does is it stores it because when you start to go do whatever you're doing personally, it reminds you like, oh, you wanted to go do this, like you wanted to go buy this, or you wanted to go spend this, or you wanted to go do this activity. Those are cost drivers because even when it's just the activity, you still have to spend, or you're going to spend some type of monetary revenue to get to where you're going or doing what you're doing. So again, cost drivers are very important when it's consumers because, you know, that's just an everyday thing. Like you, we go through and they market us every day. So you have to be willing and able to sacrifice. Again, that's why I was talking about. If you want to get ahead, you have to get in tune with sacrifice. And no, I'm not telling you to take the bare minimum and save the most. But if you want financial freedom, you have to cut back on instant gratification on products and services that bring you instant gratification for financial freedom. You have to do that. If not, you're going to be one of the people that's just in this cycle that's steady spending, that's steady making money just to spend money, just to make money again and spend it again. Of course, money is made to be spent. Of course, that's the way the world goes around. But the wealthy people know that there comes a point in time where you don't have to spend. You can make the money, save, make the money, save, make the money, then probably go have to spend the money. But again, you have to. It has to be installed into your brain that, oh, okay, I can sacrifice this week. It'll probably help me out in the long run next week. Sometimes you don't need that extra item that you think you need, or sometimes you don't need the best item that you think you need. Um, and you'll find this a lot of times in merchandising. Manufacturers really don't get too much into the advertising and things of that sort. They advertise globally for a bigger target audience. It's not just one demographic. They pretty much want to pull everybody in and not just one person or not just one group rather. Um Now, merchandising firms and servicing firms, on the other hand, they look towards certain demographic groups, certain areas of their location, and then they build from there. Like that's what type of users, I mean, type of firms that target small and demographic audiences. So you really don't have to know about manufacturing costs because well, actually you do. I'm gonna tell you why you do, because manufacturing costs, right? Let me tell you something about manufacturing costs. It's materials, labor, and manufacturing overhead. Those are the three things that a company pays to build a product for consumers. Okay? So again, it's materials, labor, and manufacturing overhead. Okay? Raw materials is parts or components used in the finished product. Okay, labor is the cost of employees associated with converting materials into a finished good. Okay, now labor can be direct and indirect costs. Okay, and I tell you about indirect and direct costs in episode 5 because that's important too. But um, manufacturing overhead is costs other than direct materials and direct labor associated with the service or product. So, and I like when I talk to my peers and things of that. So I like to, you know, inform them on how big businesses are, because sometimes we may not know what we're worth or the value of how much we mean to a company. Okay. Now I just told you it's three things that a company needs to complete a product or a service to offer to clients, which was materials, labor, and manufacturing overhead. Okay. And as I told you, inside of labor, labor is the employees associated with the final product or service. So again, if you're if they hire you, do you not know how valuable you are to that company, whether you know it or not? It could be just an entry level employee, but you are part of the process that they need to make revenue. You are a part of the process they need to make revenue. So if you're willing to be the process they need to make revenue, why can't you ever be the process you need to make revenue for your financial freedom, not for their financial freedom? I get into this all the time with my parents because I tell them, it's good to get where you going so you can hurry up and be free. Okay. Now, it may not click instantly because a lot of things don't click instantly. But the things that you're doing for these companies, you can offer these same services to these same companies or these same people's citizens, employees that they're offering to consumers. You're doing their work so they do not have to. You're doing the work so they do not have to do the work. It makes the world go round. It definitely makes the world go around. But again, for me and this after I learned it and I seen it, I know now that they need you to make revenue. They do not eat if you do not work. So my thought process again is if you are able to offer the same services that you're completing for somebody or for a company, go complete go complete these services yourself. You know what I'm saying? And then you can charge your own rate. You can you can control the scope from there. So, that's very important as well. That September 27th is bothering me. It's actually September 29th, but it's all right. We're gonna keep we're gonna keep it moving. I should have had that fixed before I came in here. But yes, that's very you have to our main focus today was knowing that sacrifice will bring you financial freedom, okay? That was the main topic in capital budgeting and cost accounting because you learned about cost drivers and cost behavior, okay? So, and I also let you know that a few things about taxation this episode. More so, I wanted to reach that part. Wanted to reach my tax clients. So for all my tax clients, because tax season is coming around, it's probably 3 or 4 months away. Um, that you will need your receipts, and that's real big. Make sure that you have everything that you need. If you do not have everything that you need, there's no guarantee that you will get a maximum refund. But again, um, for my podcasters, capital budgeting, cost accounting, and sacrifice. Okay, those three things is the three things that you need to know. That's going to get you to financial freedom, along with the assets, revenue, equity, liability, and revenue. Did I say revenue? I said all of his eyes reveals. All of his eyes reveals expectation. I think I said revenues twice. So I meant to say expenses. I apologize. So it's assets, liabilities, equity, revenues, and expenses. Okay. So y'all learned about that in episode 2 of the podcast, I believe. I'm going to drop episode 3, and then I'm going to drop episode 4 at the same time because a lot of us did not get to catch last week's. So, in last week, I did have a lot of informative information, although I had to do it a little bit behind schedule, just like today. I was a little bit behind schedule, but um, it was a lot of information in episode 3 that will help correlate to episode 4 that piggyback off of episode 2. So, as we getting into the thick of things, from here on out, um, things will be starting to become a lot more organized and put together. I actually, you can actually stream now and view my live stream at www.apmaxtaxservice.com. That's probably where I'm gonna just start having everybody join at is from the website because that's actually the website that I will I've been using for the past year or so, year or two. And for the people that couldn't find the podcast now, we are on apmaxtaxservice.com. At the very bottom, it's the F&E podcast. It's a link, and it'll bring you straight to us. You'll get to see all the episodes from the very first episode till now. Um, so yeah, it's looking a lot more functional than when we first started it out. And the um I did get the technical difficulties flushed out. So we're not gonna have to worry about that from here on out. So really what I'm trying to say is now is the time that I would start and try to start gaining my viewership and things like that so we can get the ball on the road, get this thing rolling, and start having guests up here, other accountants, um, people that people that just got question and answers about finance, um, people that need help with that with advice. Thing, as long as finance advice, um, and as long as we, as long as I can keep on helping, I don't think I'm gonna stop. So yeah, with that being said, I'm gonna start looking into guest hosts to come up here and you know we'll sit right here and we'll talk about recent activities that just happened in the economy, how it shapes the economy, what to look out for in the economy. Like right now, everybody to me should be saving their money because right now we're going in an unstable economy because although quote unquote, although they saying we're making the most money we had before and creating the most jobs we had before, there's an unemployment rate higher than George Bush administration, and as you know, that's back when we was in a recession. George Bush had took the hands over a recession, and that's that. Um, Now I'm not gonna get too much into the next subject because if I get into the next subject gonna roll into a whole nother 45 minutes. What we'll do is we'll save that one for Monday. Um, if anybody have any questions, drop a one in the chat. If anybody got anything to say, please drop a one in the chat. I thank the viewers out there and thank the one viewer that stays with us constantly, whether it's the entertainment show, the finance show, I do got at least I have a consistent one that started out with me. So I know when that thing goes from 1 to 1,000 or 1 to 100 and of that sort, I won't be able to forget about the first person that started out with me. Whoever that first person is, because I don't get to tell who it is. The only way I'll be able to tell who it is if y'all like chat, if y'all in the chat. But you know, hopefully one day y'all start to get interactive and things of that sort. So that way we keep the stream interesting. Last week, and this is crazy because last week when I was having the technical difficulties, I started off the finance show. I was like, "Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. If you made some money already, put some ones in the chat." That's what I said. I started off like that. I said, "If you made some money already, put some ones in the chat. Put some ones in the chat." But y'all probably couldn't even hear me because I was having technical difficulty. Technical difficulty. But that's all, folks. We're gonna go ahead and wrap this finance show up today. You take your quote of the day. You take your daily words of affirmation. You use them to the fullest. Don't forget them. I will be back again, and I'm actually thinking about hosting the finance show 2 days along with my entertainment show 2 days. I was thinking about every Monday and Friday. If if that was to happen, I would need to actually have a poll of other, outsiders that will want to see, more of the finance show. I would have to make sure that people is even tuned in before I even spread open the next show or open the next show. And as I think about it, one time a week, I don't really think that's enough to get out. This is why I want to do it 2 times a week. Initially, it would be 4 times a week because every finance show has an entertainment show. So if I add, yeah, so it'd be hopefully, hopefully, we just got to get some more viewers, stick the course. Um, this is your host, Kelly Page, and I thank you for viewing the Finance Morning Show. This is the F&E podcast, and we out.